This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, it is Monday, 6th July, in the year of our Lord 2026. We've got the one and only Joe Allen back from extended sabbatical. I don't want to say the great places of the world that you've been, but you've been in some of the great places with some of the best people in the world.
That's true. And, you know, I got to say, it was in Europe for just a couple of weeks, but the migrant problem in the U.S. is a huge issue for a lot of reasons, but the migrant problem in Europe is a totally different animal. I mean, I read a lot about it. I've seen it off and on from like 2008 until now. It's very, very obvious.
Okay,
it's very, very clear in the city centers.
Hang on a second. I'm really glad Joe's here in studio. We had a totally different show planned today, but because the president went on, and hey, I'm just saying, I don't want to hear all these soccer. Hey, bottom line, the guy is Nigerian. They moved to London, so he's an Englishman. But they came here to have an anchor baby. Boom, she was 7 months pregnant. Shouldn't be on the team. Oh, you can't say that. We're going to lose. Well, then put Americans in. If we lose with Americans, then you lose with Americans. You're giving it an effort with Americans. If you got to go around the world and get foreigners to play for the team, then it's not an American national team. Sorry, not sorry. Anchor baby. Everybody, everybody's all worked up for what Roberts did. Well, look, you got to see. Here's the problem, or not the problem, because this is the solution. You have to be maniacally focused. We're going to have to do some hard things. This is why you need a man like Bovino back. What did Pacific and I say all the time about Bovino? That's the type of guy Caesar had when they pacified Gaul. Just saying, you want to save your country? Don't talk to me about saving your country. Talk to me about the actions that we need to take to save the country. One is mass deportations. This is the legal scams, and the 100 million, as Bovino says, illegal. But let's start with the 20 we got here under Biden's watch. And I believe, and to the President of the United States, I believe that you're going to see in a couple weeks or less the fruits of Pulte and the fruits of John Solomon, the great John Solomon, that will come out and show you how this is all inextricably linked with foreign countries trying to destroy the United States internally. Empires and nations don't fall, or rarely fall, from external threats. Every now and again, like in World War II, these kind of world historical moments when you bomb the Nazis and you bomb Imperial Japan back to the Stone Age, and eventually you have unconditional surrender, right? You have unconditional surrender. Or in the Civil War, where you essentially take Sherman's strategy eventually and say it's just not about the armies. You're going to have to burn the South to the ground. New Orleans, Vicksburg, Columbia, Atlanta, 60-mile wide swath in a march to the sea, all of it. Maybe we save Savannah, Richmond, burn it all to the ground. Then they'll give. That's unconditional surrender. But that doesn't come a lot. We're not getting that. We're not we're not taking the battleship Missouri out of mothballs and putting it up at Bandar Abbas for a signing ceremony, because that very rarely happens. And you see how tough the Persians are. I think we've done enough militarily to get to a deal and get the hell out of there. Can we please put up the madrasas, the women's sanctuary? These are women's sanctuaries, and people are going to go nuts. He called it madrasas, and he called it terrorist training sites. Hey, it's all one and the same. It's still the mind thing. She didn't think enough of the country to stick around. It's not like you're some wife of a mayor in one of our magnificent yet small towns in rural America. You guys brag all the time how you run in New York and how you're, the Marxist jihadists are running New York. Why don't you just have enough class to stick around for the 250, at least give enough to back up the phony talk your husband gave on Friday in back of George Washington's desk, instead of flying out and just saying, suck on this, America, I could care less, to the sanctuary. One more thing before I get to Joe Allen. I think I got triggered by starting the show with Ted Cruz. We had a live, we went to the Oval, and we had Besant, we had the president, and the president's on a roll. I'm telling the team, hey, we got Trump accounts, and we're going to make these things the biggest thing in history. It's going to counter all the Marxist jihadists because it's capitalism. We're making more people capitalists, and we're going to take the AI shares of Elon Musk and OpenAI, and the government's not going to own them. We're going to kick them into account for all American citizens. And what happens at the very last second? Ted Cruz gets in there and starts pontificating about who knows what. But after that, I got a little thrown off my game. Last thing on Getter, I've got up. Washington Post leaked the story. The great Jason Miller, one of the original co-hosts of the War Room. Remember, we started the show back in 2019. I had Raheem Kassam and Jason Miller were my two co-hosts. We did War Room Impeachment. And then Jason, when we pivoted to pandemic, Jason goes, what are you doing, man? This is insane. And Jason was around, but Jason went and helped the White House in 2020. He went on the campaign immediately. And of course, Raheem's over there helping Nigel right now, trying to become the next prime minister. There's an article in Washington Post. Jason Miller officially started Wednesday the 1st, but July 1st, but now his official day, first day working, to kind of go in and take over strategy and comms and all that. I think it's magnificent. But the article also talked about a guy named Johnny DeStefano, who was one of the problems in the first term. He's McConnell's guy. He's now Thune's guy. Whoever in the White House thought it was a great idea to bring in John Thune's guy inside the wire into the White House shows you a total misunderstanding of the moment. There must be a confrontation with John Thune. John Thune is disrespecting the President of the United States every day. If you don't believe me, then why have we had an official recess? Why doesn't John Thune trust the President of the United States enough to have a recess? Once he has a recess, even for one day, you've proven that at least there's some sort of respect for President Trump. Up until that time, there's no respect. And the last thing you should do is bring someone inside the wire to report on everything that's going on. We need a confrontation with John Thune, not an accommodation. We don't need to be rubbing up on John Thune. He has no intention. First off, except for a few in the U.S. Senate, the rest of them hate Trump. They hate Trump. They hate MAGA. They hate Trumpism. They hate all of it. They hate the tariffs. They hate the border wall. They hate the mass deportations. They don't hate some of it. They hate all of it. They're the representatives of the moneyed class in this country, of the donors. That's why there's no enthusiasm to keep him in office. Isn't that Steve Bannon that made this happen? They're on the ropes right now, are going to put in $1 billion to save themselves in November. And now we're down in states like Ohio, that you guys have worked forever, for 10 years to make a MAGA state, right? They're down in Maine. They're going to lose Georgia by 3 or 4 points. Did you cause that? Are you the ones that caused that? Did you cause that? That Ossoff's up by a couple of points? A progressive liberal Democrat? Did you cause the situation in Ohio? Right? You caused Husted to be down. You caused this situation, if you look at the internal numbers, I'm going to give you some scoop. Down in Iowa. The wake-up call, we've been preaching this gospel for a long time. If you work with President Trump and his agenda with the Save America Act to start, which it's not War Room, it's the Commander-in-Chief, President of the United States, says it's the most important thing in his legislative program, and you won't even have a vote, and we cover this thing wall to wall when you have they're trying to do the standing filibuster, but they can't get any traction. Why? John Thune doesn't want to do it. He just dismisses the president. Then the other night, he didn't even come off the kickoff to the 250 celebration Wednesday a week ago. At least even Polly Pockets was down there. I mean, come on. He was down there cheering things on in the hot, muggy weather with Cash and Todd Blanche and Scott, all of them showed up. He didn't even show up. Not worth his time. He's out of here. But he sure showed up at Mount Rushmore. They want to all glob onto the president when they think it's going to help him. No, we don't need Johnny DeStefano in the White House, and that is emblematic of a problem. The problem is There is no strategy coming out of there of urgency. Action, action, action. And when you got Johnny DeStefano, all you're talking about is accommodation. So if you want to lose the Senate, keep going. You're doing great. DeGrasse is going to be on tomorrow. We're going to have him on today to talk about how, if with you guys and pick and shovel work, we might be able to hold the House. We'll do that tomorrow. Sir, now I got that off my chest. Sir, Joe, so much has been going on. And I want to, first off, the president, because we got a couple of minutes before you go to break, and then the floor is yours. These Trump accounts. I've been talking about that you're only going to combat Mondani with capitalism, right? And we have to be on offense right now, or what's going to happen here is what's happened in Europe. Now, what was the last time that you went to Europe before this trip? You've been there a few years ago, or?
Yeah, I've been, this would be the third time. First time was in 2007 through 8.
Did you go as a rigger? Did you go on tours? Did you tour?
Yeah, the first time was
full stop. I didn't get, you went as, so the first time you were doing music tours, correct?
The first time I was still an uprigger, just climbing around up in the steel, and I was working, hopefully I don't get in trouble, I was working under the table in the UK. So I was the migrant problem at the time. And then I took that money and traveled all over the place for 7 months. But then
2008, you saw then, you were not staying in the suites at the Four Seasons.
No.
You're not the Joe Allen you are now. You're not going to Joe travels as a VIP now. This is pre-VIP.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, I stayed on a farm in France for about a month as I waited for those checks to clear, doing dry stone masonry with a crazed old Dutchman. But it was very educational.
You were the migrant labor problem.
Yes. Then the second time, though, was almost exactly 10 years later. It was 2018, and that was on a tour with Game of Thrones kind of orchestral production, and we went all over the place, and we had a lot of time off,
tell me
so
about
I
this.
could kind of
This is
wander
where they
around.
took the Game of Thrones actual musical score.
Yeah,
and did a whole show with some full, like the Czech Symphony Orchestra or something.
They actually had like a core group, and then they had local contractors. So everywhere
How
we
cool
went,
is that? Was
pretty amazing.
Was it packed all the time?
I never watched the show, the Game of Thrones, but I got to see all of the highlights because they basically had a spoiler reel that went along with the music.
With the music. And a screen like we saw Amadeus at the Kennedy Center about a year ago.
And then you had, I think his name is Ramin Djawadi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, or even remember that correctly. Anyway, they were very personable. So
Did you ever watch the whole show and sit through it?
I didn't have to. I saw all the spoilers.
No, not the show, but I mean the orchestra.
Yeah. I was hooking up the violinist.
Not high.
No, but the violinist was. I would hook her up every night to go up about 40 feet to play a violin solo. That was my big.
She would come out of the seat.
Yeah, she would be standing there, and then she was very, very nervous at the beginning. But I
no
did
doubt.
quite a bit of.
I got Joe Allen rigging me. I got a cracker from East Tennessee rigging me. I'm a world class violinist. I'm going to go up 40 feet.
I might be crazy and unreliable in some spheres of my life, but I was always extremely reliable in that one. So. But one thing that I really noticed, the guy that I was touring with, hardcore right-wing Catholic, really intelligent, but you two would get along very well. And I remember when we landed in the UK, he was talking about the migrant problem and just going on and on. I'm like, man, you sound like a psychopath. Like you're way too hyperbolic with all this. I went for that first walk, and 10 years later, the change in the UK from 2008 to 2018 was remarkable. And then we went all over Sweden.
Hang on a second. I'm going to get back to this. We're going to take a break. This is a bonus time with Joe. No, because this tells you the civilizational struggle that we're in.
Yes.
That's why it takes, like it took that guy, it takes only a working class and middle class audience can change this. This is what the nation's always fallen back on. Is really the working class and the middle class to finally make their minds up about what's really going to happen, and they set things right. Revolution, Civil War, Great Depression, World War II. We're now in the great fourth turning of the American experience, the American project, the American Republic. Short break. The Joe Allen on the other side.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, there was supposed to be at noon, 10 o'clock Mountain Time. It started early. We're going to go to it at the bottom of the hour. You're going to see the entire Charlie Kirk situation because it's the evidentiary hearing, and it may be explosive. Posobic's out there. We got an entire team. Real America's Voice, we're going to go. But why I got Joe Allen. Now that he's become a superstar, it's not easy to get Joe like it used to be. Tell me about... By the way, is the composer of the Game of Thrones was Persian, right?
Yeah, Persian. Again,
did you get to know him?
A bit. Most of the artists aren't really eager to talk to riggers, but that was a different sort of scene. And both him and his wife.
If he'd been on the Dead tour, if he'd been on Europe '72, the riggers were a central part of that, right?
Yeah, the Dead is a totally different animal on so many. The big old teddy bear, big old teddy. But we weren't dropping acid, so that was another big difference.
At least you won't fess to it. Talk to me about the difference in 10 years. And now you've seen the other thing of AI come in.
And it's like, you had a 10-year stretch and then a 6-year stretch, an 8-year stretch. And like the difference on the ground, like the presence of migrants, there's obviously immigration is a mixed bag. When you're talking about just like swarms of people who have flooded into the country over the past 20 years, but really amping up just before in 2016, Syria and all that, really amping up in 2018. So I'm touring all over the place. I've got a fair amount of downtime to go wander the streets. And then, of course, I'm working in the arenas with the different crews. And while you saw in London, Barcelona, Madrid, Paris, Frankfurt, Berlin, like Stockholm, all of these like kind of Western European countries, both on the streets and among the workers themselves, especially the stagehands, right? The people who are just kind of pushing cases around, attaching lights. Massive migrant presence, massive. And while, again, these are people that are working, and sometimes they're competent, but by and large, they're just kind of bodies filling space, and that could be space that was filled by, native Europeans, and there's a lot of resentment about that. The workers talked a lot about it. However, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, very different. Like they were very much Czech, Hungarian, Polish. And you can see that policy makes a huge difference there. Now, going back this time, I was researching an article that maybe it'll be out in a month, 2 months. It's going to be a very in-depth article on orthodoxy and heresy. But, I was at a high-profile wedding, absolutely beautiful. It got to speak to a lot of people, but of all kinds of political persuasions there. Some of them are very wealthy. Some of them are very working class. But one thing that I guess if I could take the average, even if some people would give a different opinion for sure, if I could take the average, they were very, very outraged by the way in which the kind of globalist governance system had opened up the floodgates to migration. And they were also...
Even the wealthy.
Even the wealthy,
wow,
yes. They had their own reasons for wanting to preserve their culture, And these aren't people, these are not just all like, it's not some kind of like racially homogenous European set, right? These are people, though, who have a stake in the civilization that they grew up in. On the other end of it, that's on the streets, right? And that's like among the people out in the real world, in the kind of corporate, educational, artistic realm. The invasion of artificial intelligence was another point that, you could imagine would come up with me a lot. And, everyone from artists, there were a number of musicians there, also people who are in politics or investors, people who are into the kind of spiritual culture in Europe. All of them talked about how artificial intelligence is this unwanted imposition. It's a second invasion. So on the ground, you've got the invasion of people who don't have a stake in improving the civilization that they're coming to. And coming from the top, you have this invasion of these non-human minds, artificial intelligence, bots. And people, as we've covered for so long now, it's increased so much from the educational to the corporate to the military sectors. People are being force-fed this. They're told that if you don't basically become a partner with or a friend to AI, you're not going to survive. And there are all these different problems that they encounter, not just the threat of being replaced, but really how dumb these bots can be, right? They can write a PhD level essay, but sometimes, very often actually, it'll write a PhD level essay that includes all sorts of hallucinations, just completely made up facts. And so it's like on the one hand, they're being told this technology is making everyone smarter, it's making the civilization stronger. If you're going to keep up with America, you have to adopt it. On the other hand, they can see with their own eyes that the imperfections in the technology mean that people are becoming dumber because they're not thinking for themselves. And even when they rely on the technology, they're basically become conduits for falsehood, for hallucination. So yeah, I mean, my brief trip to Europe reminded me that
Isn't it ironic that this took place? You were meeting with on the A part people in Switzerland where the ChatGPT. This just became evident that large language models had made a massive leap. Was it 22?
Really? Yeah.
It was in Davos 22. And what did we warn people about during that? When Joe Allen was doing such an amazing job on this, is that we warned that the problem with going to Davos and releasing ChatGPT is that now money all over the world, venture capital and private equity is going to run to it. Even I couldn't imagine how much it's run to it to kind of be obsessed by it. The entire nation, the United States of America, is now, the economic model of your country is now a highly leveraged bet on AI having massive productivity increases without mass layoffs. And I don't even think they take into account the mass layoffs because that's coming, it's no doubt. Other things, by the way, so Joe, we're going to go to the Charlie Kirk thing at the bottom of the hour. You're going to come back on Wednesday and we're drill down on this for an entire hour. It's accelerating at an accelerating rate right now. I mean, we've had these huge fights, but President Trump said something on Wednesday that I want everybody in this audience to understand. He goes, we do need some safeguards on this, right? He said that the other day, which is what we've been arguing about, at least some sort of regulatory apparatus. This is on the models dealing with Anthropic and Mythos and all that.
Yeah, the fight is on for how this gets regulated. I don't think there's any question now that there will be laws passed. There will be different agencies that are tasked with overseeing the technology. I mean, right now with, when I left, you had a total ban on Mythos being used by anyone overseas, any foreign users, non-American citizens. And also it was very limited, like Fable was pulled and Mythos itself was being limited to just a small number of people that Anthropic had chosen. Now you've got both Fable and Mythos, I believe, but definitely OpenAI's new model, GPT 5.6. It's only being released to organizations that are approved by Trump. So it's like or by the Trump administration. So
no, that's by Trump.
Yeah, by Trump. So
he's quite engaged in this now.
You've got the beginnings. We're starting to see what it means when the federal government takes an interest in this, has a concern in this, also has a stake in this, and where this goes. I mean, and it should be remembered that whatever these early decisions are, they will set a precedent, yes. But as obviously in a democracy, the guard will change over time. We've got to be really careful as to like how much power the federal government has or what kind of powers.
Great.
One of the big concerns I have is like digital identity and it being used and weaponized against us on the basis of artificial intelligence. There are ways around it.
Give me a minute on that, because the Palantir, and you had the CEO on the other, Karp on CNBC the other night. I mean, it was like throwing net over this guy.
Yeah.
He had a breakdown on air. I mean, he's too drugged up, right, when he comes on air, right?
I worry that it's not drugs, it's just the neurodivergence that does it. In that one, okay, on digital identity, one of for child protection in particular, but there are other things. Who gets access to these systems that could potentially have the capabilities to produce bioweapons or teach someone how to use it, things like that. Then, well, how do you control who gets to use the model? You have to have some kind of identity to get access to it, and then you have to be able to verify it. Well, the most common suggestion or policy for, a lot of people use these for fingerprints and all that, biometrics. And we really do run into a danger where just to get on the internet, like the worst case scenario, just to get on the internet, you're basically having to scan your iris to get online. And everyone is linked to a digital identity that is completely ironclad, and we're in a digital prison. Then there's all the gradations in between.
There's no doubt in your mind that's a digital prison, right?
Yeah,
I mean, can't do that.
You would have to have a completely benevolent elite
point is
class,
that
and that's
is
impossible.
So against
it's
the
impossible.
foundation of this country.
Yes, and like all the organic ferment that has created America in its best forms, that all goes away if we end up there. So it has to be somewhere in between. But one thing's for sure, if it's just left up to the tech oligarchs themselves, look at Sam Altman. Sam Altman isn't the government, but Sam Altman is simultaneously creating artificial intelligence bots that he believes will replace everyone, and he's also developing World ID to verify human users. I mean, it can be just as bad in their hands.
Okay, take your number 2 pencil out right now. Joe, I want everybody to go to Joe's site. Make sure you're downloading this stuff all the time and sharing it. Make sure you're a force multiplier. Joe Allen's at the cutting edge of this. The biggest topic of the time, I might add. What do you got? Where do people go?
Go to joebot.xyz, and I really, if you want to look at the capabilities, both the upside and the downside of the capabilities, an article I published a couple of weeks ago, AI Confidential, How to Test a Digital Brain. It's a little information dense, but it'll give you a really good idea of how it is these systems are tested and what they're finding.
And Wednesday, Joe will be back. We'll give you complete, for the first hour, 10 to 11, we'll give you a complete understanding of what's going on in everything. I will tell you, I believe that President Trump and now the insertion of President Trump thinking this thing through is a direct result of the war. The CNN special came out. We got to play that. We got to do that.
Yeah.
You were a superstar. How does Gold fell in love?
I don't know.
With a cracker from East Tennessee. Joe, amazing work. Thank you as always. Okay, we're going to come back. I'm going to have a few comments into the side, and then we're going to go to the evidentiary hearing that's supposed to take all week on the assassination of Charlie Kirk and see if they even go to trial. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a couple minutes. I'm gonna go to what's happening in the courtroom. Birch Gold, take your phone out because this is only going to last for a little while longer. Go to Birch Gold. Take your phone out. Bannon, BANNON 989898. Get right to Philip Patrick and the team. Talk about this special with qualifying purchase. You can get a free 1-ounce silver round, but it's got to be a qualifying purchase. That, if you text that, you'll get right to Philip Patrick and the team. They'll immerse you in free information, but make sure that you check it out. Also, All Family Pharmacy, allfamilypharmacy.com. Bannon, buy one, get one free. This is huge. They're doing this for the commemoration of 250 years. Buy one, get one free. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com. Promo code Steve. Buy one, get one free. You get to talk to all the folks that are going to give you medical freedom, finally, only on your consent. Talk to a pharmacist, qualified medical personnel. Get all the prescriptions you need and get it today. Prescriptions today. Check it out. Do it today. All Family Pharmacy. The special only lasts, I think, to the 10th. So go check it out. We're going to have Michael Kunstler on tomorrow. We're going to have to concentrate the show because I think it's now starting at 9 o'clock. We're going to now go to the courtroom of the evidentiary hearing, the kickoff of the evidentiary hearing on the assassination of our dear friend and colleague, Charlie Kirk. Here we go.
Calling case 251-403-576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Counsel, can you enter your appearances, please?
Chad Rumander, Ryan McBride, David Sturgeon, of the state, Mr. Jeff Gray, the county attorney, and Chris Ballard are also present.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kathy Nestor, Michael Burt, Richard Novak, and Stacy Visser here on behalf of Mr. Robinson, who's seated to my right.
Good morning. Mr. Robinson, good morning. For the record, the court also recognizes the presence of Ms. Erica Kirk. Ms. Kirk, good morning. First, with respect to courtroom protocol, to maintain security and decorum, any individual who exits the courtroom during proceedings will not be permitted to re-enter until the recess. All counsel are expected to take reasonable measures to safeguard confidential communication. Such measures may include the use of screen protections on electronic devices and care to avoid the inadvertent capture of privileged or private discussions by recording equipment or by those present in the courtroom. In addition, the microphones at your tables have been turned off. Again, in an attempt to try to minimize the possibility of any of the communications being captured. I ask that if you are speaking, that you come to the lectern, and that microphone will be live. And so that's the best way that we can hear you, and it is captured on the record. All right. Second, the court will address the camera operator, and the court knows there is no still photographer for today's proceedings pursuant to the court's ruling from last week. To our camera operator, would you please approach the lectern? My microphone, there we go. Now it's back on. Could you state your name for the record?
John Wilson, KSL News.
Mr. Wilson, what duties will you perform today?
Shooting the proceeding according to the decorum order.
All right. And have you had a chance to fully review the court's standing decorum order?
I have, sir.
All right. And you understand all the requirements set forth in that order as it applies to your activities today?
Yes, sir.
Do you require additional time to review the order or to adjust the equipment to ensure compliance?
No, sir.
Do you anticipate any difficulty complying with today's with the order or with any of the court's instructions?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate you being here. Next, turning to the amended motion to allow the use of portable electronic devices filed by the news media and their counsel. The court appreciates the arguments presented in the motion and recognizes the importance of the press in the criminal justice system. Having considered the motions before the court, the request to permit representatives of the news media to use portable electronic devices during the preliminary hearing is respectfully denied. The request to permit counsel for the news media to use portable electronic devices during the preliminary hearing is granted. As officers of the court, counsel shall be held to the same standards applicable to the counsel for the parties and comply with the court's standing decorum order. I wish to turn to the matter before us today, the upcoming preliminary hearing, and the court is mindful of the safety and well-being of all parties, counsel, witnesses, court staff, and members of the public who are present. The court is also mindful of the duty to protect and uphold the constitutional rights of both Mr. Robinson and Ms. Kirk. To serve those important interests, the court reminds all persons who will be in attendance that the portable electronic devices will not be permitted in the courtroom or on the fourth floor. In addition, each person who is in attendance will be afforded the dignity and respect due to them, and pursuant to the standing decorum order, all spectators shall be quiet, civil, and orderly. Spectators shall not engage in any distracting, disruptive, provocative, disrespectful, uncivil, or threatening behavior of any kind. Spectators shall not make any audible comments of any kind, shall not shake or nod their heads, shall not otherwise make any gestures during the hearing. And the court recognizes that this hearing may invoke a motion from everyone, and that the court understands the human nature of that, but also it's important that this courtroom is orderly. Spectators shall not wear or display any pins, buttons, signs, clothing, or photographs expressing support for or against any person related to this case, or the status of this case as a capital offense. Turning to counsel. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that over these past 10 months, I've had a chance to observe each of you, and I find that you are all competent, prepared, and that you care deeply about this case. I ask you to continue to conduct yourselves in accordance with the rules governing professional conduct, civility, and ethics. I also ask that you remain mindful of the constitutional rights of all parties, and in every engagement that you treat each person you engage with the dignity and respect they are inherently due, as they are human beings. I want to turn also to objections, the format that I wish to follow if objections are made. When an objection is made, all parties shall pause so that the objection may be heard. Speaking objections are not permitted. If any party believes that an extended argument is necessary, particularly on sensitive matters, that party may request to approach the bench, and all parties will approach the bench. Both sides will be afforded an opportunity to be heard for or against the objection, after which I will issue a ruling either sustaining or overruling the objection. Once the ruling has been made, direct or cross-examination may resume. I anticipate that we will begin each morning at 9 a.m. with the exception of Wednesday, and we will begin at 1 p.m. We will take a 15-minute morning break and a 15-minute afternoon break. If there is a situation that necessitates a break, please approach the bench and we can address that. We will recess for lunch at noon for 1 hour each day, with the exception of Wednesday, and court will resume at 1 p.m. and continue until 5 p.m. each day. Does either party need the benefit of the record?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Nestor.
No, Judge, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grunander. Do either party wish to invoke the exclusionary rule?
Defense invokes, Your Honor.
All right. The defense has invoked the exclusionary rule. I ask that all witnesses, if present, be excused from the courtroom, and ask that each party monitor the courtroom to ensure your witnesses aren't present, as I'm not familiar with who they are. Of course, victim representative is excluded from that rule, as is the case manager pursuant to the rules. Okay, and I anticipate that from here on out that they're just going to come to the lectrum. So, okay, so just for the benefit of the record, to the questions, the yes or no questions. Well, the parties have entered their appearances, and they're all present, and neither party wanted the benefit of the record. Ms. Nestor invoked the exclusionary rule. And Mr. Grunander, if you'd like to approach the lectrum as the microphones at the tables are not activated.
Thank you, Judge. We anticipated that the defense would invoke the exclusionary rule. We consulted with defense for just a couple of minutes prior to the start of this hearing. We essentially have two case agents, Your Honor, David Hull and Brian Davis, both from the state of Utah. The defense has consented that both of them can be present. So one is seated at my table, the front table. This is Brian Davis, Agent Davis, and Agent Hull is seated on the bench just on the other side of the bar. He will be present for this hearing as well. Both of these agents will be testifying as part of the hearing.
Thank you. Ms. Nestor, your microphone's dead. If you want to come forward, and it sounds like you've stipulated, but just for the benefit of the record.
We have stipulated, Your Honor, for purposes of this hearing only.
Thank you. All right, so Agents Davis and Hull are permitted to remain in the courtroom during the duration of the preliminary hearing. Any other business that we need to address before we turn to the business of witnesses? Mr. Novak.
Thank you, Your Honor. Richard Novak for Mr. Robinson. Your Honor, the court had issued an order, maybe it was early last week, asking the parties to meet and confer about the question of whether exhibits will be published. And we did, and we can either deal with this as a general matter or we can deal with it on an exhibit-by-exhibit basis. But I just wanted to make sure that we didn't lose track of that issue. The court had earlier entered an order granting in part the defense motion to exclude I'm just going to say technology in the courtroom because it's a shorthand for video cameras and photography and microphones, because the parties had earlier stipulated that none of the exhibits would be available from the preliminary hearing, would be available for inspection or copying. I understand that publishing the exhibits in the courtroom may technically be different than that, but whenever the court is ready to deal with that issue, we just want to make sure that we do so
Thank you, Mr.
before it's too late.
That's always the right time to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Turning to the state in defense, do we anticipate this being a long argument, or is it something that we can handle? That there are some stipulations that we can address right now, and then the remainder we can address on an exhibit by exhibit basis. Mr. Grunander.
Judge, I don't know that we have any stipulations, but with that said, it is correct, Mr. Novak's correct, we did meet and consult on this issue. I wanted to give the court just a brief roadmap, but part of that was exhibits 7, 8, and 9 that we propose introducing will be graphic in nature. And those were the exhibits I was referring to at the last hearing, where we would like to take a short break before they were published, if they are published, whether it be by way of video and or audio. Judge, I don't see any TVs or monitors here in the courtroom today with respect to publishing something that would go beyond counsel table and Your Honor's bench. So I don't know how much this is of an issue this is going to be anyway, at least with respect to pictures or video.
Thank you. That's a great point. And the court's thought about this issue in regards to publication of exhibits. Obviously, the court will entertain all motions before any, but after considering it, here's the 2 points that I wish to address. In regards to the exhibits, there is benefit to publication of certain exhibits, but I also do not, and this is going to the camera operator, do not want them to be displayed on TV. I believe it is important that the parties know that the exhibits are being viewed by the judge in real time and in open court. However, what I will do is have the monitor placed against that wall to reduce the possibility of it being broadcast. And so on the exhibits that the court grants to be published in court, and not going to Mr. Novak's point, not to be given copies to, and the court is trying to be mindful that if it's shown on TV, that's essentially giving a copy to. And so the court is taking Mr. Novak's point in consideration. And so the anticipation is, and I know I'm catching staff a little bit off guard, is placing that television right behind Jeff, our bailiff, to minimize the accidental capture by the camera and allowing it to be displayed. I recognize that that is not the ideal spot for viewing, but I'm also trying to balance the rights and important considerations that defense has made. And again, this will be on an exhibit by exhibit basis on what is published or what is not. But for the exhibits that the court rules can be published in open court, that is going to be the location of the monitor. And again, the court spent a bit of time weighing what should be done, where the monitor should be placed to accomplish the purposes of publication, at the same time protecting, especially as it may relate to sensitive material if the court deems that to be publishable in the courtroom. Any questions that I can address from either side or clarification needed or thoughts that you wish to share?
No, I think I understand completely.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Grunander, as it relates to that, are we anticipating the possibility of that coming up very soon in regards to publishing potentially exhibits?
Not real soon, but today certainly I would anticipate, Judge. For the court's information, we anticipate presenting 4 witnesses. They're all law enforcement witnesses. Officer Chris Bagley. He's now with Spanish Fork Police Department. He was with Utah Valley University Police Department. He'll be the first witness. The second witness will be Agent David Hull, and those exhibits 7, 8, 9, we anticipate coming in through him. The third witness will be Agent Brian Davis, again with the state of Utah, a case agent who's here presently. And lastly, Sergeant Jennifer Faumoina, also of the Utah Department of Public Safety. And we do anticipate admitting between 40 and 50 exhibits.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Grunander, I apologize. You walked away before I got my question out. If we anticipate taking a break around 10:30, do you anticipate any potential exhibits for publication being requested prior to 10:30?
I do, Judge. Okay. I do. I think the first several exhibits should be published. So.
All right. Well, let's do this. I want our preliminary hearing to move smoothly and with the least amount of delays as possible. So let's take a brief break to allow the placement of that monitor, a brief test to make sure it's working, and then we can be seamless in moving forward.
One quick question, Judge, for counsel's benefit. Are the monitors at the tables going to be turned on?
The monitors are, and
okay.
That's why I wanted to give that instruction early on for each party to monitor their monitor, because if the camera is doing a wide sweep picture of the courtroom, I can't prevent the accidental capture. Obviously, the decorum order anticipates not focusing in to the point that is focused on your monitors, but I ask all the parties to be mindful, especially as it relates to the sensitive material that may be published or may not. But please just take a look at that and be mindful of that. But I will leave it to you. So I believe it's important that all parties see what is before the court. So if you have objections, it's right there. You can say, okay, I see what the court's seeing. I have objection or not, or just to confer with your client. I just want to make sure that there is no misunderstanding of what's being presented, to allow all parties the benefit of the record, and it is clear what is being presented to the court for consideration as evidence. Thank you.
And we do have one exhibit that will be in physical form, and so we will be using the easel, I think it's just over by the jury box.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grunander. Before we break, I do wish to remind the parties that this is a preliminary hearing. It is a probable cause standard. And if you could keep that in mind as you're presenting your evidence, this is not intended to.
Remember, this takes the place of a grand jury hearing. This is why you're going to see it raw. And they set some ground rules right then. We're going to toss to the Charlie Kirk show. In a moment, the president's walking to the Rose Garden. They've got a Rose Garden lunch. I think he's going to say some words, so they'll probably cut into the Charlie Kirk show. We're going to cover this live. Poso's review show is going to be in the evening. We're going to get this all worked out during the day today, but we're not going to miss a moment of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This essential grand jury hearing or preliminary hearing. Just July 7th, allfamilypharmacy.com/Bannon. Buy one, get one free. Do not miss this. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bannon now. Runs through July 7th. Buy one, get one free. Also, Home Title Lock, the special 25% discount, 2 years for signing up for Home Title Lock for pennies a day. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve. Check it out. 25% off. Mike Lindell, we got about 2 minutes, Mike, before we got to go, I guess, to the Rose Garden and to the Charlie Kirk show. What do you got for us, sir?
Tell everybody this is the last day. There's only 24 hours left of our big 200 sale that comes every 250 years. Everybody, this is all our made in the USA products. We got one more day of it. We got the MyPillow premiums. We got the mattresses, the mattress toppers. Their mattresses are 50% off. Everything ships for free. So get it now. This is the last chance. You guys go to mypillow.com/war room. And then you're going to see all that. Well, here's the made in the USA. We have the crosses, the My Crosses, the MyPillow Premium, $19.98 for the king, lowest price in history. That's going away. $18.98 for the queen, $14.98 for the standard. You guys, we have body pillows, $39.98, free pillowcase, free shipping, free. And then you have the bolster pillow. You guys try out our other pillows. They're like Go Anywhere pillows, the bolster pillows, all of the stuff made in the USA. And you guys get free shipping on your entire order. But go to mypillow.com/war room. And then you're going to see we have where the sales have collided. You also have the Mega 2 sale that's on that you can go scroll down when you get to mypillow.com/war room. You're going to see our Giza Dream Sheets. All the new colors just came in, as low as $29.98. Same way with our 6-piece towel sets, $34.98. So you guys do it this fall. You got about 24 hours left. I'm not going to be able to be on tomorrow, you guys, so get them today so you don't forget. We've got, and use promo code WARROOM 800-873-1062. You guys get it now. I don't want you to miss this sale that comes once every 250 years, Steve.
Okay, brother. We'll see you this afternoon. We'll fit it all in, Mike. Mike Lindell, My Pillow. Make sure you go see these very special deals they got. We're going to toss now to the Rose Garden Club. The President of the United States making a few remarks before this lunch. Charlie Kirk show is next. We're back here at 5. See you then.
Stone, 35,000 pounds per square inch. So think of it. Nature makes a stone far greater than we can. There's no stone that we can make. There's no concrete or mix that we can make that's 35,000 pounds per square inch. But it's gotten rave reviews. I don't know if anybody's up and seen it, but this is the walk to the Oval Office and walk to the West Wing. And so we've done a job, and we've taken about 150 years of paint off of the columns and redid them. They were in very bad shape. When you have 150 coats of paint on something, it's not good. You're supposed to, what they call, strip it. I don't use a word like that too easily. I will tell you, in construction, if you don't strip the paint off, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it was looking bad. You couldn't even see the details of what was up here. We very carefully stripped it. Now we're doing it. You notice the scaffolding on the front of the White House we're doing. A lot of love is being put in the White House because, frankly, it was treated very badly by a lot of presidents, had no idea. The last one definitely had no idea. Do you think he walked in the office and said, I don't like the shape of the columns? I don't think so, Biden. I don't like the shape of the columns. He didn't notice things like that. He didn't notice anything. But we're putting a lot of love back into the White House. This will happen every 200 years or so. You'll get somebody that will bring it back. But if you look at that wall right there, that beautiful wall of the building itself, that's been redone, and it's been done beautifully. And the best thing and the biggest thing that we're doing is we're building a ballroom and a tremendous military center. That was supposed to be top secret, but it's no longer top secret because no matter what you do, you get sued. They sue because they think the ballroom's too big, the ballroom's too small, I don't like the color of the ceiling, we don't like, you just get sued. In this world we're living, especially if your name is Trump, you get sued. And you get sort of good at it after a while. It becomes routine, it's ridiculous. But we're building something the likes of which will never be even close to being competed with. The ballroom is going up to there. You see, it's the hardest part is now completed, the base, and it's rising, very substantially rising. And when it's done, the most you can seat is about 93 people in the White House. It was always a problem. For 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom to be built. We don't have a ballroom in the White House. We have a room that's a little bit large, but it's not a ballroom. It's a very small room. We had King Charles here. Everybody wanted to be here. We couldn't hold anybody. But soon you'll be able to. I think it's going to be one of the most beautiful structures in Washington when it's completed. And I've done many ballrooms, and this will be, there won't be anything to compete with this anywhere in the country.